conditions have not been made pertaining to this new driveway.
If I could just hold you up right now, and again, it's not that we're not interested in it, because we are, but up to this point, you know, have you gone through the administration,
well,
the administrator, and
well, just if I may. Apparently the building inspector, this is the last one, apparently the building inspector has issued a foundation permit without appropriate sign-offs from the Board of Health, Board of Appeals, CPC, and Conservation. We were told at a Conservation Commission meeting, and I say we because there was about 15 or 20 abutters present at that meeting, and the chairman, Mr. Martin Wise, told us that there wouldn't be any construction until the applicant, Mr. Dana Tower, could bring to the next meeting, which was December 12th. The next meeting, he was to have a hydrology plan, and he was to have his engineer, I think it was Raymond Frazier, present at the meeting to answer questions for the Conservation Commission. We come to the meeting on December 12th and find out that the applicant, Mr. Dana Tower, moved to have postponed that meeting. In the process, he's issued a foundation permit, and he's able to build. It's you know, in virtually every community in this great country, in every state, there is a protocol to developing your property, which everybody has the right to develop their property. Why is it so difficult in North Reading to follow a protocol? There's a step process to build or develop your property, and it's not taking place here. There's violation after violation. The short answer is he should not have been issued a foundation permit until he addressed the Conservation Commission problem. Can somebody answer that?
I think, well, Mr. Younger first.
The two things I'm aware of is the first time I've heard of those violations.
Mm-hmm.
I was aware that DEP had a stoppage on the site,
That's correct.
and that it had to go to the Conservation Commission.
That's
and
correct.
Until it was approved to Conservation Commission, that nothing else was going to occur.
That's exactly why I'm here.
That's the last I've heard.
That's
of that.
exactly why I'm here, Mr. Younger.
Okay. So obviously there'll be some follow-up then. Mr. Rowe.
One of the things, not knowing all the time dates and so on and so forth, and I don't know, but I do know, and it has happened in the past, where a foundation permit can be issued at the person's own risk or the developer's risk, subject to the approval of other things. So I'm not saying that's what happened.
I understand that, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. That is a statute in the state building.
Right, so I don't know if that's the case, that this particular thing,
Right.
it was, maybe that's how that foundation was issued.
Well, that is correct, but if
I think probably the thing is what I would, my concern here would be that this should have gone, and I don't know, maybe it did, maybe that's why you're here, but should have gone. The building inspector is, I believe, is the one that's directly in charge of code enforcement.
Exactly.
So if these complaints went to him and weren't addressed, I don't know, but I would assume that the same thing, if they weren't addressed with him, then the next step would have been to...
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong here, but I think the first step is to get through Conservation Commission, and he hadn't done that yet.
No, I believe that the code enforcer is the...
No, but he's not in charge of conservation.
No, but he's the building inspector.
I understand.
What I'm saying is, if you maybe, I don't know, because I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but if you had gone to him, maybe, and apparently you have not gone to him.
Well, that's another issue.
Okay, but the fact, what I'm saying is...
I have gone to him in the past, and it's...
Okay, but if you went to him at this particular...
The real answer is it's been a nightmare. I've gone to him in the past on the same issue, same driveway, same everything, and it's been a nightmare. And here we are again, back...
This has been ongoing for how many years?
At least 4. At least 4.
But at the same time, if in fact he's crossed wetlands illegally, that's an issue with the Conservation Commission.
That's correct.
They can issue him a cease and desist order.
And they have.
And they have.
And they have.
So they can issue him fines, I believe it's for $300
That's
a day.
correct. It's in the...
And I think the fine is $300 a day for every day they violate that cease and desist.
Well, I don't think they wanted to take that hard, you're correct in saying that, but I don't think at the last, the November meeting that they wanted to take that hardline approach. What they did say was they'd like Mr. Tower to approach the December meeting, like I said, with his engineer and with a hydrology plan, which that hydrology plan, I believe, is on record. He already has it on record in the town hall here somewhere. how does it fall through the cracks? How and why? That's really
Well, I think part of it is you know, the unwillingness of the developer to conform with the rules and regulations too.
obvious.
So, we've had problems with some developers over the years, and I'm not saying Mr. Tower is one of them, but we've had some bad developers over the years that we have spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars litigating cases and trying to force them to conform with certain rules and regulations that are all in place, and the code enforcement officer, and the Conservation Commission, and all the appropriate town bodies have made an attempt to work with them, and also, you know, made an attempt to get them to conform, and they just don't.
And they don't. I understand that.
And
That's
occasionally
part
we run into some of those people.
And that's part of what happened the first time. But given what took place the first time when the building permit was rescinded, and now here we are back to square one, and we have the same issues with the same developer, wouldn't it be prudent for the building inspector, so to speak, or the building department?
Or the
to-
Conservation Commission, I don't know whose jurisdiction it falls under at this particular juncture to make sure that nothing else is
Believe me,
transpiring.
I've addressed all the department heads.
Right.
And every time you address that, it's, well, that's a zoning issue, you have to go see this one. Or that's a wetlands issue, you have to see that one. And what amazes me the most is the building inspector's desk is approximately 3 meters from the Conservation Commission's desk and approximately 5 meters to the health agent's desk. And how nobody is on the same page is really ridiculous, guys. It really is. And this is not the first time in this community that something like this has taken place.
Mr. Bagan.
Yeah, I think part of the frustration Mr. DiGiovanni is experiencing is, you know, he knows that there's a cease and desist order, and yet no one knows that they can enforce that. You know, can the police actually, if they know about it, can they go up and say, you have a cease and desist order? Or do we need to enact an article to do that? Because I know that this type of frustration goes on, you know, as everyone's mentioned. It's gone on because, you know, developers refuse to stop. But I believe, you know, that the state has the 7 to 7, that there is a noise if the neighbors complain, and I don't know to what extent that is. But we have the right to make the rules for North Reading tighter than what they do. We can't make them looser, but we can make them tighter. So if this is continuing to be a problem, not only with you, but with other people, I think that we probably should enact something that probably says if it annoys the neighbors on a Sunday, you know, all the others are considered normal business days. And certainly if a building is enclosed, you're going to get less noise. But, you know, certainly I wouldn't want to be sitting out there on a Sunday and Christmas Eve. And, you know, we did chat about it Christmas Day.
Christmas Eve, the guy was up there?
Yeah.
Mr. Younger.
Okay, I was going to yield to Selectman Rowland.
Well, I think one thing is, I think you do have to understand, one of the questions you asked about, you know, the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission. The Board of Health can't, because you don't comply with the conservation on something that's unrelated to what the Board of Health is
Right.
doing. He can't refuse to issue a permit if you
No,
comply.
I understand that,
Okay,
but
so
at this point, if I can, Mr. Selectman, at this point, he doesn't even have a health permit.
No, I'm just saying, you talked about all of them getting together. What I'm trying to tell you is that because you go in and because they're not complying with the Conservation Commission rules and regulations or whatever, you can't turn around and say, okay, the plumbing inspector, I don't want you to approve the plumbing in the house because
Right.
he's not doing
Well, I
something,
understand.
you know? So you can't,
I understand that, but you have to understand what I'm saying to you. You have a developer in the community that doesn't have any legal right to be there right now, and he has a foundation built. Permit was issued a foundation permit, and it's built enough, without any sign-offs, there isn't one legal document that he has at this point.
Mr. Rowe pointed out,
He
Mr.
can do
Smith,
that.
he can do that, but he does it at his own risk. And if the conservation comes back and says, I'm sorry, this is the wrong place, so you can't do it at all, remove it and restore that property to the way it was.
Well, that's, you know as well as I
Well,
do, that's never happened.
But that's
It
the
has
inherent
happened.
risk.
It
isn't
most
it?
certainly has happened.
There's an inherent risk that the developer's taking in doing that, and so be it. I don't disagree with you that it's a bad move, but I think there are, the building inspector, when issued a request for a foundation permit, pretty much issues it and says, but you're doing it at your own risk. I mean, it made it very clear.
They can't get a building permit to actually build the building. There's no way they'd ever get an occupancy permit to occupy it without the Board of Health issuing a permit.
Don't say never in this community, Mr. Selectman. Please.
Mr. Younger.
Right.
Thank you.
Trying to maybe get some closure to this. I haven't seen the letter yet.
Okay.
I mean, there is a process that the building inspector goes through and is issuing a foundation permit, I'd be pleased to look at the letter.
I'll actually give you a copy. You can have this copy. It's CC to you anyway.
Okay.
And I apologize to Mr. Bagan. I should have gotten the letters to him a lot sooner so he could address the selectmen with it.
Yeah, Mr. Bagan.
You mentioned, Mr. DiGiovanni, that there were, other towns have rules and regulations for Sundays.
Right, that's correct.
Would you happen to have any copies of that?
I don't, but I'll get them for you.
Well-
If you would like me to address this at another issue, I will get what other communities have in writing, yes.
Certainly, that would be good, because if we're going to enact something, it'd be
Right.
nice to see what everybody else does. And I don't know if we should put that burden on you, or we should...
Put on the administration, but
Right.
Mr. Vito might be able to get his hands on something in a
Get one real quick.
the nearby community.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, so if we can get a collection, and if you'd like to give me the towns that you've talked to,
Yes.
I think that would be a good start.
But I think Mr. Smith's comments with the blue laws went part of the tightness and the reins that we had previously, and whether or not, I don't recall ever enacting anything other than the noise bylaw recently. I don't know if there's any other restrictions, so it'll be interesting to see if we can do something, because I also agree, you know, it's very disturbing to the neighbors and neighborhoods, particularly on a Sunday, if people want to enjoy the day. to
Well,
have-
I didn't have, actually, I appreciate...
In addition to that
Right.
whole other issue,
Right.
that specific instance as
Right.
far as what's transpired with that particular developer, and that particular parcel of land, and all the issues that have gone on with that, and...
Right, well, that's exactly the way I feel, and if there was a protocol for him to work on Sunday, and there is something etched in stone, then fine, go ahead and go to work Sunday. Right now, you don't have anything. It should work both ways.
And again, I appreciate the phone call that you made, even if it was Christmas Eve, and that's okay, I don't mind if you call me, even if it was Christmas Day, you could have called me. But, and I appreciate you bringing it to any of our attention, all of us are available.
But I don't want this discussion to get spun. It's only the tip of the iceberg, the Sunday work. More importantly is in my opinion,
The process.
The process.
Right.
And what I consider an illegal foundation permit given out, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Sure.
Has the conservation issued him any type of
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, it's right here. I have a copy.
documented letters saying that it's a
Absolutely.
violation, this and that? and other things?
Absolutely, it's right here.
They've actually issued him a cease and desist, and he
Enforcement
continues-
order. They've issued him an enforcement order. And again, at the December 12th Conservation Commission meeting, these issues were to be addressed. And the developer himself postponed that.
And he's continued to work since?
Well, why did he have to come to the meeting if he had his building permit? If he could go do his foundation, that's really what he wanted
I
in the
think
first place.
that's an issue to discuss with the
Well,
I mean, it's really-
conservation agent. And again, I think a hard line should be taken with some of these people. If they're issued a cease and desist or something like that, you know, put some bite into it.
Yeah, it says right here, $300 a day. Mr. Smith was correct.
But I think that...
They won't find him.
That's right.
No, that's right, if you're gonna, yes, sir,
You're not
but
gonna
I said
find
myself.
Okay, this is to Mr. Rowe. He said the building inspector has the authority. I've spoken to the building inspector, Nick's spoken to the building inspector. Nick had to apply for a special hearing to have a building permit revoked because the building inspector was adamant that everything was correct. And we get to the meeting and find out the land was never even subdivided. Yet he issues a permit on something that's subdivided. To me, I don't live in North Rag. I'm appalled at this whole project, the way it's been handled. I live in Andover, and I'm a little proud of my town because things are handled a little differently. I'm just dumbfounded that the people of the town have to go through this.
Are you up in Jenkins Way?
Yeah, yeah.
We're proud of our town too, but I can tell you that, and it's not always, things don't always go smooth.
Well, when
They
somebody
generally do
it
get
says,
ironed out.
if somebody suggests to you to look into something, I would assume you'd have common courtesy to look into it.
We definitely would.
Okay, the building inspector just seems to say, hey, I don't care. I'm doing it this way. I'm the building inspector.
I think, you know, one of the things you talked about protocol, we do have a protocol, and one of the things was that if the satisfaction wasn't gotten from the building inspector or the conservation commission or anybody, then the next step is to go to the town administrator.
I think Nick's talked to the town administrator
Well,
about
see,
it.
okay, now this is something new, because my understanding is right here from the board tonight,
This is-
what we're all hearing is This is the first we've heard it, and this is the first the town administrator heard of it.
This has
So-
been going on 2 years
this-
ago,
on this-
on this particular, 2 years ago,